is Lane Dolly. I'm a freshman in high school, and I chose this topic because I think it shows how interconnected the world is now and how when something happens in one place, it affects nations across the globe. Just a quick note, the situation in the Red Sea is complex and recent. I tried to include as many updates as I could, but there may have been some things I missed in the shuffle. First, some background information. You can see the Red Sea there is that piece of water between Africa and India. Yellow is Yemen, blue is Israel and Gaza, and green is Iran. So who are the Houthis? They are a rebel group in Yemen. They've been around since about 2004. They took over Yemen's capital in 2014 and by 2016 controlled most of North Yemen. Ever since, they've been looking to be officially recognized as Yemen's government. There have long been suspicions that the Houthis are backed by Iran, and US and Saudi Arabia have provided evidence of Iran backing the Houthis. The Houthis also invaded Saudi Arabia under the guise of being unhappy with Saudi Arabia's financial and religious influence in Yemen. However, most of the world understands that the invasion of Saudi Arabia was under Iran's influence. Since then, the Houthis have been fighting the Saudi Arabia military coalition as well as the UAE, and their efforts forced Saudi Arabia to leave conflict in Yemen in 2022. But since then, ceasefire talks have begun. So the Houthis are one of Iran's many proxy groups called the Axis of Resistance. They tend to work for causes that Iran supports and wants. The groups are under their own control, but many of their decisions are influenced by Iran. Since Iran supplies such a huge amount of money and weaponry, estimated to be around $100 million in value, Iran gets to watch its enemies struggle with the hurt caused by the proxies without actually taking the blame for it. In that graph, you can see it's a graph of the likelihood of civil war due to proxy use, and that green line is the Middle East. So as you can see, that's shot up. So because the Houthis have been at war with Yemen's government for about 8 years now, the citizens in Yemen are in a state of crisis. That 21.6 million in need of humanitarian assistance that you see there is 2/3 of the country. The United States have been trying to adjust the situation for years now. There is some hope as the fighting between the Houthis and Yemen's government lessens, not to mention the ceasefire talks between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis could greatly assist the civilians. Another important thing to understand is how crucial the Red Sea is to international trade. If you don't have the Red Sea, ships have to go around Africa to transport goods, which takes a lot longer and requires more financial power, resources, and labor. So what is happening in the Red Sea? The Houthis are attacking both commercial and military ships. The ships are supposed to be the ones that are Israel-linked to pressure Israel to allow aid into Gaza, but the attacks have been on ships other than Israeli ships. The piracy decreases global trade because of the risk it holds, and as a result, the US and UK did strike Houthi storage depots in Yemen. However, the Houthis have announced that they won't stop. The attacks help to increase Houthi recruitment, strengthens their popularity with other Hamas-supporting nations in the Middle East, helps Iran, and increases their legitimacy. The attacks are also putting Yemen's ceasefire talks at risk, and may even trigger a larger US military response that completely unravels Yemen's negotiations. 30+ attacks in total since about mid-November, using advanced systems like drones and cruise missiles, things that the Houthis probably wouldn't have without Iranian backing. Multiple ships have been seized and its members held hostages. Audio and video clips have been released. Unfortunately, I could not load a video clip onto this PowerPoint. It wouldn't work for some reason, but you can look it up online and it's really interesting to see. So, as a response to multiple US Navy and merchant vessels in the Red Sea being hit, the US and a coalition of countries including Australia, the Netherlands, and Canada sent a counterattack on January 11th. The attack targeted weaponry and general storage depots of the Houthis in an attempt to cut off their supplies, as well as US sanctions being put in place. However, history has shown that the strikes will probably do nothing to stop the Houthis, seeing as previous US and Saudi Arabia attacks never really cut off Iranian-backed groups. Not to mention, officials are scared that more strikes will further their humanitarian issue in Yemen. Why is this important? How does it affect the world? It affects international trade a lot. It makes ships change their shipping routes and adds a lot of financial and time costs to trade, which is going to inevitably raise fuel price and goods scarcity. In Israel and Gaza, because Israel ships are being hit, a lot of companies are not taking Israeli goods, which is totally affecting their economy and their imports and exports. Also, the rate of imports and exports falling is going to affect the amount of medical and military supplies able to get in during this time of war, which is bad for Israel and Gaza. And in Yemen, they're also facing a decrease in trade because they have ports along the Red Sea as well. Plus, it slows their ceasefire resolutions and brings more military and violence to a country that has been plagued by it for 8 years. When looking at the situation, we really want to focus on long term. We don't want to put a band-aid on a bullet wound here. The top three are all short term, but they could help lessen the impact of the problem. However, the bottom two are really great long-term solutions, even though I am going to focus on using India as leverage. However, I think the best option is using India as leverage. India is a really big trade partner with Iran, and Iran already doesn't have a lot of other countries that are willing to trade over it. However, India has also expressed concerns over piracy and had a growing relationship with the US. So India may be able to be convinced to tell Iran to stop supplying to the Houthis in exchange for the Indian trade. Houthis would be powerless without Iran's backing and would probably not function as well as they have been and not be able to carry these full scope attacks. There are some cons, however. India values Iran's trade and may not be willing to risk it. We also don't want to anger Iran and bring its powerful ally China into the situation or risk the important oil exports that Iran has. But in terms of pros, the solution could possibly be long-term and limit other Iranian proxies, as well as protecting Yemen and not affecting Israel or Gaza. And it may even permanently shut down the Houthis. See my work cited here and continued onto this page. But if you'd like to see the full work cited, you can visit the link below. Thanks for listening to my presentation.